A recap, then. A recap of the recap. In the first class, I spoke of the extraordinary interthreadedness of IFS, internal family systems, and Buddhism, and how IFS is a quite marvellous form of upaya, or skillful means for helping in daily life. And in the field of therapy, just almost as an aside, I nowadays call it the therapeutic wing of Buddhism, that it seems so closely interwoven. I spoke about compassion as being a combination of a feeling for another being together with the desire to do something about it. And it's that desire to do something about it which marks it out as compassion, as compassion. And that doing something about can look like positive action, or simply being with, or anything at all that is called for in the moment. And how compassion is as fundamental to IFS as it is to Buddhism. I spoke about how compassion is innate to us. It doesn't need to be generated by our effort, by trying to be compassionate, and nor does it need to be beamed into us by God or from anywhere else. That the reason why we often find compassion isn't available to us is because it gets covered over, like clouds covering the sun, by our parts, by parts of us which are doing this, that, or whatever they're doing for their own reasons, by their own perception of what they need to do. I gave a quote from Joko Beck, who says in her book Ordinary Wonder, "The basic vow of practice is to do good. This doesn't mean to try and do good, because that trying is ego activity. You can't do good if you're mad at somebody, or if you're trying to defend yourself against the world. Or I would add, if you're trying to do good so that you can feel or be seen to be a good person." Joko Beck differentiates between a strategy of doing good, which in IFS language means doing good, coming organised and managed by our parts for a personal ego-based strategic purpose. On the one hand, the difference between that and the good that, as Joko Beck goes on to say, the good that flows out of us living our true life. I then spoke about the way through this apparent impasse, which that the way through the apparent impasse of we can't be compassionate by trying, but we don't know how and where to access our compassion, is to make the counterintuitive turn, and in Flint's phrase, the U-turn, the capital letter U and the Y-O-U turn, towards what it is which covers over our innate natural compassion, and that can seem positively counterproductive, that we humans tend to spend so much of our lives trying to get rid of, push away, deny, do anything about the parts of us that we don't like, that cause us trouble, that disrupt our lives in all sorts in their various ways, and that it is to turn towards and give spacious attention to, including spaciousness in our bodies, and gently inquire about the blocks to compassion and gently get to know them, that is in my view a revolutionary turn, and needs no effort. That it's the turning towards without effort. And out of this turning towards, compassion can emerge of its own accord, both for ourselves and for others. And that emergence of our innate compassion naturally leads to a simple desire and an ability to say, beings are numberless, I vow to free them. And as Flint almost always says when he says that, he points out beings are numberless, and he points in beings are numberless. And this is covering compassion, in other words. In the second class, we looked at how that. So class one was had the most amount of me talking. In class two, we looked at how parts of us, such as an excessively hard-working part, or a procrastinating part, or a people-pleasing part, an anxious part, in fact, are all trying to look after us in some way, which often doesn't immediately seem to be the case at all. They more often than not appear as just disruptive, messing up our lives in small ways or big ways. How they usually got set up in childhood when we needed to be a certain way in order to gain or keep our parents' or other carers' love, and how these parts extraordinarily, which I can't begin to explain, carry on faithfully doing their jobs for decade after decade, long after the original perceived need for them has passed. And we did a meditation in which we turned towards one or more parts to discover their good intention towards us, and how this simple, gentle inquiry can dissolve any self-antagonism or self-critical parts, allowing compassion towards this part of us to emerge, like the sun shining through when the clouds disperse. And just, it's popped into my mind, a third element of this evening will be journaling. And so I will invite you to, after this recap, to journal about the journey, for how these classes have what they've meant for you. Your journey within these classes. In the third class, I spoke about how all of our protective parts hold good intentions for us, and that if that's true for me, it is certainly also true for everyone else. I spoke about how so much of the difficulties in relationships come from parts in me and parts in the other person getting activated by each other. And what we see and experience in the other person is their behaviour if we're not used to thinking in a parts and parts way. If we're not used to thinking in a parts and parts way, we say they are, and fill in the blank: critical, angry, manipulative, people-pleasing, and a hundred other possibilities. And we, our parts, tend to react to that. We don't have in our mind, and this is the potential that the potential, the potential within relationships for IFS, to hold in our mind that a part of them, this other person, feels a need to behave in that way for its own reasons, to protect the other person, or actually it's to protect the child part of the other person. And a part in me tends to react in such and such a way to try and protect me from a perceived fear that I'll be taken over, or I'll be criticised, or I'll be this, that, or the other. And protective parts can appear in so many guises, as anxiety or worry or striving or giving up or passivity or anger or self-criticism or criticism of others or people-pleasing or perfectionism or caretaking, and a myriad more. And then we did a meditation with all of this in mind. And the second half of that evening was with reference to someone we feel neutral towards, probably because we didn't know them. And we did a meditation to be aware of our common humanity. And in class 4 we turned our attention towards someone we hold not much other than dislike for, such as an extremist politician or one of their followers. And firstly we did a meditation in which we initially turned towards our own parts to give those parts and their thoughts and feelings space and attention, which is what they need, before we did a whole group exercise with two groups, one being given the role of being pro-Brexit and the other half pro-Remain. Firstly, simply expressing the view, and this can feed into how we can sort of journey within any relationship, from expressing our views, our side of the argument was the first part of the exercise. Then speaking of the fears, our fears as to what would happen if the other side were to win. And in a relationship, as soon as we start talking about the parts of us which hold fearfulness, then probably, as we may probably well know, it can soften any discord between us and somebody else. And the third section, finally, speaking about something that touched us or resonated with us about what the people in the other group had said. Then 10 minutes for journaling, just for your own sake, whatever you would like to about this journey of IFS, of Buddhism and IFS, and discovering compassion. we will have a reflection, thoughts and reflections into the large group at the end of the evening. But now, what I'd like to lead us in is a Tonglen meditation, which, for anyone who isn't familiar with it, Tonglen is also known as taking and sending, and it reverses our usual logic of avoiding suffering and seeking pleasure. And in Tonglen practice, we visualize taking in the pain of others with every in-breath and sending out whatever will benefit them on the out-breath. And what's in my mind right now is suddenly come into my mind, and I think I said this in a previous class, and I hope nobody minds me referencing the I Ching, that the last but one section of the I Ching is after completion, and the very last section of the I Ching is before completion. And so it is sort of in that spirit that I see doing this Tonglen meditation, which will be for, as it were, for all beings. However, I want to extend the Tonglen meditation. It's usually done for beings external to us, and this evening I want to start by practicing Tonglen towards our own parts, as the first section of the meditation. Here's a quote from Pema Chodron. Usually we look away when we see someone suffering. Their pain brings up our fear or anger. It brings up our resistance and confusion. So we can do Tonglen for all the people just like ourselves, all those who wish to be compassionate but instead are afraid, who wish to be brave but instead are cowardly. Rather than beating ourselves up, we can use our personal stuckness as a stepping stone to understanding what people are up against all over the world. Breathe in for all of us, and as Flint might say, all of us, all of us. And breathe out for all of us. Use what seems like poison as medicine. As we begin, or just before we begin the meditation, I just want to say that we point out that we can't hold all the distress of the world, and that feeling overwhelmed doesn't help anyone. So just please take care of yourself to keep the focus of your meditation within bounds, as it were. That, as Flint says, we can polish our own personal corner of the universe. And the other thing I'd like to just say before we start the meditation, because it's something I find immensely helpful myself, have done for the last few months, and I'd like to offer it out in case you might like to practice this during the meditation. And it is something put forward by Roshi Joan Sutherland, and she framed it as strong back, meaning strong and flexible and not rigid, and soft front. And I have had the temerity to add a third section to it, and a responsive heart. That and because I didn't want to overstep the boundary, I spoke with Josh about that, who thought that was a good addition. Joan Sutherland writes this: all too often our so-called strength comes from fear, not love. Instead of having a strong back, and I really like the fact that this is an embodied practice. Instead of having a strong back, many of us have a defended front, shielding a weak spine. In other words, we walk around brittle and defensive, trying to conceal our lack of confidence. If we strengthen our backs, metaphorically speaking, I'm not quite sure about that, metaphorically speaking, because I'm loving practicing sitting with an upright, strong back, and develop a spine that's flexible but sturdy. Then we can risk having a front that's soft and open, representing what she calls choiceless compassion. And so, I offer that. Strong back, soft front, responsive heart, if that might be of use. Let us then settle into a Tonglen meditation, which I will lead. Just sitting comfortably and settling in to ourselves. Beginning with maintaining focus on our breath, and as we breathe in, being present with breathing in, and as we breathe out, being present with breathing out. Acknowledging distracting thoughts and feelings as they arise, and returning to connecting with the breath. Now I invite you to link intention to your breath. And as I said, this first section is with reference to ourselves. On the inhale, breathe into your heart, and you may like to visualize your physical heart, or not. Breathe into your heart something in your life that you find painful or distressing. And as you breathe out love and light to these parts of you, focusing on your body as the recipient of this loving out breath. Breathing in something that you find painful or distressing, breathing out love and light to these parts of you, into your body as the recipient for this. breathe now into your heart something of ill health, if you have any, that you carry. And again, on the out-breath, breathe out love and light to these parts of you. Breathing into your heart anything of ill health that you carry, and breathing out love and light to these parts of you, physical or emotional or mental, that hold ill health. And now breathe in maybe just one element of a relationship that you find difficult or distressing, one element that you find difficult or distressing in whatever relationship, with whoever. Breathing into your heart, one element, and breathing out love and light. Into your body and maybe towards that person. Breathing in something you find difficult in some relationship, and breathing out love and light into your body and towards the other person. And now extending the Tonglen practice towards other beings. Think of someone that you would like to do this practice for. It could be someone you don't know personally, such as someone affected by the Turkish and Syrian earthquakes, or by that ghastly train crash in Greece, or anybody else in any situation, and begin begin by breathing in whatever fear or pain or other parts of, or other forms of suffering that this person holds. And as you breathe out, allow your heart to radiate loving intention that reassures and comforts them. Extend your meditation now to other beings, whether human or not, to all being, in whatever situations you wish to extend your love to. Breathing in their distress, breathing out love and light. So for the last few minutes of the meditation, I invite you to do this practice for whomever or whatever draws your wish, whether focusing in towards one person, one being, or focusing out to the wider world, to all being. Or to a group for these last few minutes of this meditation, breathing in distress and fear, and breathing out love and light. And finally, I invite you just to relax into a more open, non-specific sitting for a minute or two. So as we come towards the close for this evening, just a chance to give any reflections on that meditation or anything else that you'd like to. And I'd like to invite any more general questions about IFS and Buddhism, but what I'm just suddenly realizing is that may not sit that well, having just done this Tonglen meditation. So I'm just realizing that. But there's an opportunity for talking into the large group, reflecting, asking. Or sitting in silence. Maria.
Well, you're right about one thing. That meditation was, it was just a wonderful thing to do. And in light of all the things that you've been teaching, and one of the things that stands out for me throughout this is that all our parts have good intentions.
Absolutely.
And although I've always felt that they have a protective role, that they're trying to protect me from something, the way you've taught it and explained it has offered a more spaciousness around parts and a different kind of way of feeling towards them. It's kind of opened this space for compassion towards those parts that feel stuck or not right or shouldn't be there, or I should have got rid of that by now, or I shouldn't be feeling this or doing this. Or so it's really helped me to kind of look at these parts and kind of really notice that the kind of that the beliefs and ideas and this system of all these different collective things that they have, were formed at such a young age, and that they actually all the strategies and coping mechanisms they have are the best they had at the time and were the best
Absolutely.
resources available
Yes. Yeah.
at the time. And that actually it's pretty clever and pretty good what these, the way these parts can kind of jump up and kind of
Yeah, that's lovely to hear, Maria. Very clever, very dedicated.
mm,
They keep carrying on doing their job all our lives until they can be met uh, by the one who is not them,
yeah, and that's what.
the one who can meet them.
Yeah, and that's where the spaciousness comes in, isn't it, with the
Yeah,
Buddhist practice and IFS and how the two together open up this space to really have an understanding of the parts, and on the
yeah,
other side a kind of an opening, a spaciousness,
absolutely.
and the two
Yeah.
together has really helped me. I mean, I've shared it as well. I've shared it a lot about these parts are protective. Since you said that in the way that
Mm.
you did it, I've shared it, and other people have found it really helpful because it is, isn't it, to remember that they are being protected. They all have good intentions. They all
Yes,
have good
they
intentions.
all have good intention, and as you say, that can just allow us to feel for them, these child parts who are doing their little best to look after us. Yeah, yeah, that's great to hear, lovely to hear, Maria.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Darcy, did you have your
Thank
hand
you,
up?
Judy. I was
You're
just going
muted,
to
Darcy.
say that this what you were talking about, and Maria, you too. Um, I really felt it in a way that I hadn't before, but in terms of the other person, that oh my gosh, this part that my part is responding to and trying to protect me, this part over there, oh, it's trying to protect them, and it is just one part of so much more, and that helped embody the spaciousness for me.
Mm,
Was like, oh yeah, that's just one small part of them. Oh, I could feel all this more space.
that's lovely
And
to hear. Yeah.
it felt like it made more space for my response to respond to the bigger part
Mm,
of them.
mm.
So that's what
Yeah, thank
that
you.
was very nice. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's I see it often as if it's like when parts are reacting to parts, it's like children having a scrap,
Mm,
which it is.
mm,
There's a way in which it
mm-hmm.
really is children fighting with each other, and that
Yeah.
this this way of being brings in the possibility of the more peaceful, spacious adult
Mm,
self with a capital S to
mm,
talk with the other person from a different level and feel for these kids who are scrapping. Yeah. So thank you, Darcy, for yeah bringing out that.
yeah, yeah. No, thank you.
Mm. Judy, you.
Thank you, John.
Mm.
Tonglen, there was two particular people
Mm.
very dear to me that I was focusing on for a lot of that meditation, and it felt to me like a really concentrated version of what I do in retreat when I put names on the altar.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it's sort of nice to have that structure, because I feel as though when I do that, I both try to send love, but also try to empathize, be alongside,
Mm.
see see the struggle. So that was really a really sort of concentrated version of that, it felt like, which was lovely. But also I just wanted to share a sort of process that's been going on for me this week that sort of I realized when I was journaling. I've sort of been aware of it going on, but I sort of understood it a bit better. So it's a part that so I've got quite a lot of pain at the moment, and I when I was little, I used to be considered a whinger, and I can still hear all the kids in my class saying, "Stop whinging, Julie."
Oh.
So if I complain or talk about my pain,
Yeah.
I very quickly feel that I'm moaning or whinging.
A part of you feels that the
Like
moaning or whinging.
that
Yeah.
little girl, feels like, So what's happened this week is, since I've been in this new relationship for the last year or so, I've realized that I am how much I'm very expressive in the moment. Like I can't not express myself in the moment, and the sort of positives of that and how much that helps me. And I think what I've managed to do is to really appreciate that little girl expressing herself.
Right.
And
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
because when I have said what's happening for me and how it's making me feel, I can move on from it a lot quicker. So I've realized that actually it's a really helpful thing, and also that the adult can speak on her behalf, and what she really wants is just to be seen and have the pain recognized. And
Seen and heard and met. Yeah.
So that feels like a sort of recognition that's been a long time coming, age 54.
Tell me about it. Yes, and then that other protective part, child part of you, which says, mustn't whinge, don't whinge, I'll be called a whinger. You know, mustn't. Is that did expect that she did her best for you back in the day, so that you wouldn't be called a whinger?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing is that she's beginning to feel that she doesn't have to be totally in charge. That don't whinge, don't complain.
Yeah. I suppose that's a way of looking at it. I suppose the way I was seeing it was that the whinging that felt unacceptable to me is just expressing myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the feelings can move through.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, when I was saying when I said whinging, I meant that's that was the perception of the class members.
And of my inner critic, I guess.
And of you, of that protective part.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I haven't put my hand up, but
That's
is it all
okay.
right if I speak? I found the Tonglen very beneficial, John, and
Good.
especially I'd never thought of using it towards my own parts.
Mm.
And the other very beneficial thing was to think, some, like all of us, we see things like the earthquakes in Turkey and the train crashing, the train overturning in Greece, and it's very difficult to turn towards it.
And
there's a kind of powerlessness in that. And I was thinking, I found it really I don't know what the word is, healing really in a way, to just to practice Tonglen for some imagined person. I was imagining, because I've lived in Turkey,
Yes.
I was imagining, and it sort of takes away the passiveness of just observing it on the television, turns it into something active, and
Yeah.
I valued that, and thank you very much. Take that away with me from this course. Thank you.
Thank you. And who knows actually what effect it might have in our interconnectedness. Just a thought in my mind. Yeah. And perhaps
I'll try and keep so there's a part of me that comes in straight away there and thinks, oh yeah, okay. But so what I'm also noticing now is a wish to be more open-minded about such a thought.
Right. Yeah. And just while it's in my mind, perhaps we could talk sometime about doing Tonglen in nothing special, possibly just a little thought that comes into my mind.
John, I haven't put my hand up. Is there anybody else in
Nobody
line?
else seems to have their hand up. The floor is yours, Ben.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I just wanted to say a big thank you, John, for delivering this this course with such authenticity and diligence and care. Yeah, it's been very, very helpful to me, and you're a star. Thank you, my man.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for so much for your presence here. Helen.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, just to echo Ben's sentiments, thanks so much for all the effort and obviously reading and preparation and time. I really feel loads of benefit from just opening the curtain into the world of type of way of understanding how parts of us work as human beings, and it's going to very interesting, and I wish I'd known about it at school. And shame from Labour, that's by the by, but I really look forward to thinking about it more and experimenting with it, especially with children as well.
Yes.
I'm really aware of, I don't want to get obsessed with thinking, oh, I don't want to make it so that they have dodgy parts. So, but
yes.
With this, but just working with the way they are as they are, rather than trying to be too kind of like clinical about it. But it's really, I'm really intrigued, and thanks so much. And I think also the U-turn. That's something that's definitely a practice point, and being able to polish our little corner of the that I like to say, that allowed me to go, oh, I don't need to feel think and worry about everything. And so lots of really
we can't save the world,
really rich
and
so much.
Yeah. What there was something you said just before. The U-turn, that's right, yes. To me that seems absolutely revolutionary, that because as I said, we know perfectly well that we as humans try to we generally spend most of our lives trying to push away, get rid of, ignore parts of us which we don't like, which cause us distress. And it seems totally counterintuitive, not to say counterproductive, to turn towards these parts.
Yeah.
And it is the way, and it is the only way through.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Tonglen as well. I found that really like concentrated and as Catherine said, quite like active, which was a good, different experience than normal
Mm.
meditation. So thank you again.
Mm. Thank you. Mm. Julia.
Thank you for this course, John.
Mm.
It's the first time I've really come across working with parts. This is quite novel for me.
Mm.
And yet it makes so much sense.
Doesn't
it makes so much sense of the way we relate to ourselves when
Doesn't it? Yeah.
there's those parts of ourselves that irritate and we get angry with, and or I get angry with.
A part of you gets angry with.
Yeah.
It's another part.
Yeah.
A part of you does something, a part of you gets angry with that other part.
Mm. And it's helped me to think about the difficulties I have with some of my very close relatives, and seeing that as stepping into, well, looking at them differently about what part is it that my part is engaging with.
Absolutely.
And not with them, but with their part.
Absolutely.
And that has been fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's touched me greatly, and it's brought me close to tears, some of the sessions that you've had. So a lot of work, I think, but very, very useful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Julia. So, as we come towards 1:45, anyone else who would really like to? It's Mary.
Yeah, I just want to offer my appreciation for all the care and hard work that you've put into this, and how generously you've offered it with such care. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've really enjoyed doing it, and found it exciting and valuable to put these classes together. And it's been great for me to sort of put down and draw together something of the links between IFS and Buddhism, and to evangelize for IFS a bit, because I am a bit evangelical for it. Josh.
I'm aware, John, of how much care you've put into creating an arc of study for us. It's been a real expression of appamada, I know, right from the early preparation stages, and then each section of the evenings, and I'm so appreciative, and I think it's been a wonderful offering as head student, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh.
Could I just say, briefly, I was just going to say that I think what's kind of struck me the most is, like in Buddhism we talk about walking, not getting rid of our habits, but walking intimately with them. And in IFS we talk about getting intimate with our parts, not getting rid of them.
Absolutely.
Getting intimate with them. And I think for me, the more intimate I get with my parts, and the more kind of I get to know them, it's like more compassion for other just naturally arises out of that space, because it's like you let people off the hook more as well, because you think, well, yeah, I really know what's going on there, and you can really see struggles and suffering in other that we have in ourselves, and because we've got that that intimate relationship and knowing of how it really feels and what it's about. It's like, oh yeah, you too, me too, you too, me too. It's and so that compassion is really grows.
Really, really wonderful. Yeah. And actually sounds a perfect point on which to end, because you're talking about discovering compassion. So, so perhaps we could just to end off, just sit for a couple of minutes, come back to our core practice. When I ring the bell, I'll share the screen. Let's say the echo together. We offer the merit of our practice for the welfare of all beings everywhere. May all be relieved of suffering, free from fear, longing, aversion and ignorance, and may we, together with all beings, realize the awakened way. So thank you everyone for having made this class, these classes so wonderfully rich. And yeah, I'm so glad to have introduced to have done these classes. It's been a wonderful journey. Bye all. Good night and bye.
Thank you. It's been wonderful journeying along with you. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much, Maria, for your presence and teaching.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much, John. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, bye, bye all.
Night, night, everybody.